One of the first things that we do when we start to think about getting the first fixed lens, of course, is going to be to have a 50. It makes sense when you start to do research about great masters like Elliot Erwitt or Cartier-Bresson, Walker Evans. You realize that one thing that they have in common is the use of the 50. It's not exclusively, of course, but it's one of those signature elements that you find that these great masters have in common. Therefore, when you go to the shop and you realize that the 50s are, generally speaking, not very expensive, they're small, they're fast, it's an option that makes sense. But what happens is that if we're used to use a zoom lens, something like a 24 to 70 or in crop format, 18 to 55, something like that, I think that we're used to use the lenses in the wider kind of setting. Then when you put your 50 in the camera, everything feels a little bit too close, it's too narrow. And I have to say that's normal. We tend to see situations and scenes, and we tend to try to fit all in that frame. But I would say that's precisely the beauty of the 50. Even more than the actual focal length is the idea behind it, is what you become when you understand how to use the 50. I think it's fine to get likes from colleagues, from other photographers, because we got a picture that is particularly complex to create, maybe it's heavily layered and things like that. But we shouldn't forget that what is important in this trade, in the photography, being documentary, street photographer, which is almost all the same, is that we have the ability to say something to people. And that people are not necessarily photographers. And something interesting that happens, and if you ask around, you'll see that it's true, is that when you show a picture that is too complex, that maybe for you and me would be fantastic because it's interesting and it was hard to make and the color combination is great, you show that to a civilian, as Dan Milner calls them, they don't really understand what's going on. Therefore, we are losing the point of explaining something, which is the beauty of photography. So one of the benefits of the 50, I would say that it forces you to avoid the anecdotes, would be the fancy pictures, the single pictures. It's fine to have complex stuff, don't get me wrong, but the 50 or the idea of the 50 allows you to elaborate narratives, allows you to dissect somehow every situation in different parts, and then it forces you to figure out the hierarchy of what's important in it, right? So in this same situation where you have lots of things going on that with a wider lens you would get everything at the same time, the 50 forces you to move around and to decide what's really about the picture, what's really about the story that I'm trying to convey here, what's the most important aspect of this situation. And because of that, the rest of the pictures of the same situation are going to be also interesting and important because you don't fit everything there. You will need to take another picture maybe for a detail, maybe a portrait. Maybe you need to step back to do a little bit of establishing a shot of where you are. That already is making you think in narratives. Another benefit, and at the same time problem of the 50, is that it looks natural. It's what is considered normal lens. It's not going to give you any distortion. It's not going to do anything funny with the lines or with the vanishing points. Everything looks natural. And because of that, we don't have any effect, right? So going back to the idea of being intentional, it's even more important because we don't have a tool that it's giving us dynamics just because of the properties of the actual lens. We need to find the dynamics some other way. And going back to the idea of being intentional and thinking about narratives and stories and that kind of concept, the 50, again, because it's a little bit narrower than something like a 35 or a 28, it's going to make you think carefully about the frame. One of the things that happens that's different between something like a 50 or a 28 is that with a 28 or a 35, I would argue that it's easier to frame and it's more complicated to compose. And we have to remember there is a great difference between those two things. And both things needs to be intentional, of course, all the time, no matter what lens are you going to use, right? But with the 50, I think it's the other way. It's somehow more complicated to frame because you have less room to put things there. But because of that, it's easier to compose. Everything is going to be apparently more simple, but I would say that it can be more sophisticated because that will be a part of a whole, a part of a body of work. And through that variety that you achieve, through different kinds of pictures, different kind of distances, you're going to achieve this idea of dynamics and complexity, but within the whole body of work. I know that all of that sounds interesting and intriguing, but it doesn't make it any easier. I'm going to give you a couple of tips that I think that can be helpful for you to use a 50. Maybe if you are an experienced photographer, you are thinking about developing something long form, or if you are a beginner and you are thinking about having your first fixed lens, these 3 or 4 tips that I'm going to give you, I think can help to use this great focal length. That being said, I want to remind you that what I think it's important here is not really the use of the 50 itself. I happen to like the aesthetic and how it looks and those things, but what I think that it's really important here is the mindset that the 50 forces you to have. So either you're a beginner or an experienced photographer, I would suggest to try it, maybe do a project with it, maybe to use it for a couple of months to see what happens, and try to keep that mindset of long-form narrative, of discourse, because there is where your voice as a photographer, which is this great mystery that everybody talks about, it will emerge. It's in the way that you explain things to others and how to put together a beautiful body of work. So the first tip would be think about the framing first. We were saying that with a 50, it's a little bit more complicated to frame and then it's a little bit easier to compose. So think about the frame first. And keep in mind that you have time. Pause for a moment and be simple and direct, straightforward. You can keep photographing to build those dynamics that we were talking about. So stop for a moment and think about what's really important in that frame and frame it carefully. Try to avoid overlappings, look at the backgrounds and be direct and simple. Second thing that I would say that it's important is that use the depth of field wisely. Of course, when you get a fast 50 or 1.4, 1.8, something like that, one of the first things that we do is to go straight for 1.4. And that's fine if you're going to do a portrait, for example, or if you don't have enough light. It's what it's for when there is low light, for example. And I would say that there is a beauty in the fall-off of the depth of field of the 50, but it's not the same to compose a layered picture, which is something that you can do with a 50, that you need to have a foreground, a middle ground, and a background at 1.4 than an f5.6, for example. You still have at 5.6 certain fall-off, this particular beauty, this visual signature that the 50 gives you, but you will still have enough information in the foreground and in the background and in the middle ground, which is something that you will need. The third tip would be really remind yourself that you should think in long form. thinking stories, not single pictures. If you keep that in mind, you will realize that you have the time to develop complexity and nuances and things like that, so that you don't need to be all the time high up in intensity and complexity. You have the whole essay, the whole body of work to be complex and nuanced. So think about that and stop for a moment every time that you're going to take a picture, and be a little bit less reactive and be a little bit more intentional with that. And as a more practical kind of thing, I would say that in every scenario, in every scene that you find, try to do a mini sequence, like a triptych. If you find yourself in a corner that is interesting, try to take a picture of the actual corner, or how it feels to be there, the establishing shot. Try to identify the action, what's going on, and be clear about that action. It might be in a market, someone selling vegetables, whatever it is, but be clear and straightforward about it, and then try to capture a detail of that scene. Maybe the hands of the vendor, maybe the actual vegetables, it doesn't matter, but try to explore triptychs every time that you do. That would be very beneficial, because it's not only interesting for you as a practice, but also when you go back from that trip or you finish your project or wherever it is, you'll see that you have a great variety of things for when you edit, which is at the end, in the editing process, when you are selecting, when you are sequencing the story, thinking about the format in which you're going to display that. It's really where the voice of the photographer, your voice, is going to emerge.